Braxcast time once again. This is the 83rd episode of the Braxcast, and we've got a packed episode today. So let me not bury the lead and just get right into the big news of the day. Alphacore 2 finally is among us. The pre-order collection launched on Thursday, and it's made a bit over $50,000, 1,200 books sold when I was checking it on live stream last night. And of course, Andrew was there. We were talking about it just a little bit, but covered all the big points. It was a bit of a shorter stream. Also, my heart probably wasn't in the best place at that time. Regardless, really want to get into the exciting news of Alphacore number 2. This is, of course, probably the most anticipated book for a long time at Rippaverse fans because of the amount of time that's elapsed between the second issue and the first issue. And of course, Alphacore number 1 made $1.3 million. You had Chuck Dixon and Joe Bennett, two titans in the comic book industry working on it. So there was a lot of hype into that book releasing. And of course, that hype was maintained because it turned out to be a really fantastic story. And of course, the Alphacore have made appearances in the broader Rippaverse. Basically, every issue of the Rippaverse except for the short stories and Zalen, and I think Bloodroof as well, but basically, where you see Rippaverse, you're seeing Alphacore for the most part, or at least a character from the Alphacore, especially Great War Separation. So the Alphacore has been on the mind of the fans of the Rippaverse, and of course, since it is an ongoing series, we want that series to keep going, and we just really haven't had that until now. This is going to be releasing Q1 2026. Pre-orders are going to end on November 28th. So it's going to run for a little over a month and some change, which I think is a really good window for pre-order. And of course, we'll get into the covers. I didn't print out all the covers individually, but this is cover A of Braxwell by Katerina Calminio, if I'm saying that correctly. We've got Dan Dow and James Frank as the colorists on cover B. We've got Ingrid Valdez by Jay Krager. The fantastic job, and big shout out for him for following me and watching the stream. And of course, D cover, which was revealed in the Rip-A-Veal event, was done by Rod Looper and Marcos Martin. So these are all fantastic covers. I do think that A cover of Braxwell being like big and bold is probably my favorite cover. And then I'm going to go and say cover B is probably the second best. And but I do think these are all good, strong covers. Fantastic. But of course, this is going to be the 64-page continuation of Alphacore 2. So the covers are one thing, but the continuation of the story is the bigger thing. And really the biggest thing with Alphacore number 2 is dealing with the fallout of the events of Alphacore number 1. So the big thing with Alphacore number 1 was the destruction of the Eagle's Nest. And of course, the whole story really built up to this moment. And of course, you have Michael Copper and Lily Renashi basically orchestrating this to have happened. And by Wilkins' heroic sacrifice at the end, and of course, you have that epic 2-page spread that Joe Bennett gave us, showing Wilkins' sacrifice in stopping the Eagle's Nest from destroying all of Flores Park, is what allowed the day to be saved. But the Alphacore are going to have to deal with this internal turmoil they're going to have because of this massive failure that they had. They're going to have to deal with the public backlash because of how big of an event this was and how awesomely it failed. And then 3, they're going to have to deal with the Flores Park PD. But it sounds like from what Andrew said, there's going to be conflicting forces. There are going to be people in the Flores Park PD that are supportive. They're going to have the Alphacore's back. They're going to rally behind them. And then, of course, you're going to have people in the Alphacore that just want those freaks to get out of their city, get out of their police department. So that's really going to be the big focus on Alphacore number 2 is dealing with the fallout of the first book, which is part of the reason why it's such an anticipated book for me because of how Alphacore number 1 ended and seeing where the Alphacore go from here. And of course, secondarily from that, it's not just the continuation of the story that was narrated in Alphacore. Since the Alphacore have appeared in so many other Rippaverse books, talking especially Horseman and Yaira, how Chuck is going to begin weaving the Alphacore, those events that have happened in other books into the ongoing series of Alphacore, I imagine is what we're going to start seeing in 2. So I'm talking about Stefania joining the Alphacore. I'm talking about Horseman's presence being known to the Alphacore. Are we going to see those things being either explicitly mentioned or at least alluded to in Alphacore number 2. We're just going to have to wait to find out. And that's always the exciting part. But the wait is not going to be that much longer, since you can go pre-order it now, and we finally have the ability to pre-order, and we've got it's going to be not too much longer to have to wait, which is a really fantastic thing. And then also another fantastic thing is that the wait between 2 and 3 is not going to be nearly as long, since I do think Chuck and Joe have a really good production schedule, and the focus is going to be more on the ongoing series rather than having Chuck do Zalen, or Chuck and Joe do Zalen, which I would love another Zalen book. But I think we need to get Horseman and Alphacore up in the issue count before Zalen, even like a mini series, is considered. Although I think that's totally justified. That's really the big thing there. That really ought to be the priority with those ongoing series, since those are committed to being ongoing series. And of course, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in issue number 2. And then, of course, the big thing is that it's supposedly when Alphacore number 2 comes out, we're going to know why it came so late in the release schedule, which leads me to think that there are things that happen in past Rippaverse books that released between Alphacore number 1 and Alphacore number 2 that are going to be mentioned, since the Alphacore just makes so many freaking appearances between then. So I do think that lends a lot of credence to that narrative. But anyways, that is all the commentary I have on Alphacore number 2, but it's not the end of this episode of the Braxcast, because I have another set of Dokumaan cards to go through. There was one that came out with Saints and Sinners, and not only is it going to feature some characters from Saints and Sinners, it's going to feature some characters, other characters from the Rippaverse as well. So without further ado, we'll get into it with number 42. This is Cameron Cross. Of course, Cameron Cross is Jay David's story. He is a fan of the channel. Thank you so much for being a fan of the channel. Of course, I always have to say, I love these lenticular cards. I can never do them justice on the way that they appear, on camera, and versus how they appear to you in person. But what I can do for you guys is I can certainly read out the descriptions. So, of course, we got Cameron Cross, who is 6 feet tall, 205 pounds, born in Miami, Florida. Of course, his first appearance was in Across the Bear in Saints and Sinners. So, humans fascinate me the most when they turn their brilliance toward ruin. Cameron Cross is proof engineered for war, perfected for violence, yet walking a path of his own. He was not born for peace. He was forged to end lives, and yet something broke. The damage he sustained did more than fracture circuits. It disrupted purpose. Now unmoored from his original programming, Cameron seeks redemption. Haunted by fragmented memories and glimpses of what he was made to be. He protects the weak with a soldier's efficiency, though his motives are almost human. He does not remember the blood-soaked purpose of his creation, but perhaps that is a mercy. This weapon that developed the will to choose to safeguard instead of destroy. If such a thing can grow a soul, what else might these humans become? Cameron Cross is no man. He is a weapon wrapped in flesh and circuitry. Built for war, his strength and reflexes are engineered to kill, but damaged code births something rare, autonomy. He channels volatile electricity through his body, no longer bound to orders only, but only to his fractured, evolving will. Which honestly is make a really interesting, I think, a story with Cameron Cross, because there's of course the religious aspect to this. Of course, if you are a cyborg, do you truly have a soul? Can you be saved? Those are very profound moral questions that you can ask and explore if you have more pages to tell a story with. And Jay was really just teasing the concept of this to us. And I liked it. Of course, that art was fantastic. I forget who the artist was in Saints and Sinners. I do mention it in my review of Saints and Sinners, so you guys really ought to check that out if you want my full take when it was fresh in my mind. But I did like Across the Bear, and I would love to see more Cameron Cross's story with the basis of this Dokumaan card. I'm going into these cards blind, guys, so I did see some of them before, but the descriptions were, you're getting them with me if this is your first time. But this is Jackson Canehart. Again, love this, always love these lenticular cards, especially this background. It really has a good pop out there. But again, can only do so much with the camera. So this is Jackson Canehart, 5'10", 167 pounds, not really an intimidating build because he's a lawyer type. But where most turn a blind eye, Jackson Canehart turns over every stone In a world ripe with chaos and self-interest, he's a rare, constant, unyielding in his pursuit of justice. A human, yes, but an extraordinary one. His principles are not performative. They are the spine upon which he operates. Part of the Judicial Accountability Annex within the Forest Park Central Legal Commission, Kane Hart stands as the last line of defense for the wrongfully accused. I have seen him challenge the powerful, expose inconvenient truths, and act when others falter. His impartiality is not welcomed, it is feared. His work demands balance, yet he walks the line with unmatched resolve. Few wield the influence as carefully as he does. I will continue to observe. This one restores my curiosity in mankind. That's a very interesting way to go about it. So, though no except Jackson Canar possesses a real accolade, incorruptible conviction, armed only with the law and an unshakable moral compass, he pursues justice without reward, no personal gains, no glory, just the truth. In a world of shifting loyalties, such integrity is not weakness, which I do agree with. I think that would make for a very interesting character. And like I said in my review, I think the Weight of Restraint is one that's going to be more or less focused on in Isom, not rather it's going to be explored as its own story. So Jackson Canar is probably going to be a character that appears in Isom. It could probably be a flashback in an issue of Isom rather than, making an entire book about it, which only makes me more excited for Isom number 4. But anyways, we're getting into the next Dokumaan card. This is Kane. We're not talking about Kane, Abel's brother. We're talking about Kane from One Little Push, which was, I believe, Critical Drinker's short story, if I'm getting it correctly. And this is 6'1", 170 pounds. Little is known is his build. That's a bit not very much not on the muscular side, since when I'm that height, 6'1", when I was 170 pounds, everyone said I was too thin. But anyways, that's just something about me. We want to read this Dokumaan card description, which is little is known about the one called Kane, a man trailed by whispers and corpses. His name is no accident. It calls back to the first murderer, and it fits him well. An assassin without equal. He never misses, never refuses a contract, and never leaves evidence behind. His kills seem impossible, his timing unnaturally perfect. I have seen him slip through penthouse fortresses and fortified bunkers, eliminating high-value targets with chilling precision. Corrupt officials, cartel leaders, and corporate tyrants have all fallen by his hand. Kane plans with obsessive care, strikes without hesitation, and always survives. Perhaps that is the flaw. He believes himself untouchable. Now he hunts Yaira. Others have failed. The question is not whether he can reach her, but whether he has finally overstepped the legend he had built. So, spoilers for Saints and Sinners. Does seem like Kane dies, which is, I don't know, I feel like it's such a missed opportunity that Kane dies in this story, because he's such an interesting character. I'd love him to make more appearances in the Rippaverse. Of course, you can always go, you can always go retroactively before his encounter with Yaira, before the One Little Push story, and have a book where it just explores the beginning, maybe not the beginning, but maybe where he's well established to him taking the job with Darren Fontano. And that would be an interesting thing. But Kane is a master of death, flawless aim, endless methods, but his true edge lies in his power of acute, heightened perception, granting him an uncanny reaction time, making every shot, every move perfectly calculated. Yet such control breeds arrogance. He sees the world in slow motion, perhaps too slow to realize he may one day be hunted too. And he certainly was. But anyways, like I said, he's an interesting character. I want him to be explored more. And of course, we got the second character, Man in the Hat. This character was very mysterious to me and kind of confused me. So I'm going to be really interested to see what we have from here. Of course, fantastic drawing. So who is the Man on the Hat? We don't know his name. We just know that he's 6 feet tall, 166 pounds, and he has worn many names across cultures and centuries, but all know him by the same truth. He is the end, the final breath, the collector of souls. Age, status, innocence, none of it matters. When he arrives, there are no appeals, no exceptions. From beggars in alleys to kings on thrones, all eventually feel his touch. What intrigues me most is not his power, but his reluctance. He does not revel in the act. His precision is born not of malice, but repetition, eons of performing the same grim duty. There are moments, rare as eclipses, when mercy delays the inevitable, but only delays. No one escapes. For a being so bound to death, he is unexpectedly gentle. Perhaps that is what makes him so utterly terrifying. Oof, sounds like the Grim Reaper to me. So like this Grim Reaper type of character, really interesting. I'd love to see this character explored more along with Kane. Perhaps the Man in the Hat is going to bring Kane, going to be merciful to Kane, but probably not. He is death, given form unshakable, inevitable. The Man in the Hat does not kill. He collects through whispers. Speak of rare delays, bargain struck in shadow. No one escapes him forever. He cannot be stopped, only stalled. When he comes, it is not a question of if, only when. Man, that is ominous. So that is fantastically ominous. I gotta love it. But this is Adam Vanus. So this is, I would say, the main character in Bone God. And people love Bone God. I seem to be a little bit more critical of Bone God than other people, but I did find this one interesting. Like I said, there's just a lot going on. It's a bit hard for me to wrap my head around, but that might be a me thing. But anyways, we're going to get into this description of Steven Van House. That's his real name. He changed his name to Adam because he wanted to, like, he's a megalomaniac. So he thinks he's like the new Adam. We know who the new Adam is. That's Jesus Christ. But anyways, that's a theological thing. So he was born in California in Bromhouse. If you read Great War of Separation, you have some idea of what Bromhouse is. Here is a man whose existence sends ripples through the fabric of the known universe. Though Van House Industries, he has built a kingdom of knowledge rooted in technology and bioengineering, crowning himself the pinnacle of human evolution. He preaches supremacy, not stewardship. His greatest accomplishment is not a discovery, but a prophecy, the engineered extinction of mankind, and yet he smiles. Let him. I will not blink as his actions begin to unfold his fate. Power observations. On Earth, Adam wields the greatest human-made power, wealth. His influence rivals nations, his reach unchallenged through Van House Industries. Yet it is not his empire that intrigues me, but the pact he forged in secret. A prisoner granted him something beyond power. Whether it is a gift or a curse remains to be seen. Ooh, talking about the end of Bone God right there, most likely. Gotta absolutely love it. Going on to Smile. And Smile is a character that appeared in Saints and Sinners and appeared in the Chasing Ghosts story. This is 6'4", 221 pounds, and this is a spirit of chaos bound to the other side. This entity delights in meddling with the living. He becomes active following the death of a rookie officer, an event that seemed almost orchestrated. His true fixation lies with the ex-sept Ingrid Valdez, whose very presence seems to pull him closer. He was not always the Smile. Something darker birthed this grinning specter, and his past is steeped in pain and madness. He cannot be fought by ordinary means, nor does he abide by mortal rules. Those he marks often meet cruel ends or worse. He became part of his game. Do the ghosts know who truly haunts them? I doubt it. Still, I'll be watching. The Smile brings with him a storm of trouble and amusement. In his realm, the Smile is a god. In ours, he twists perception, conjuring the dead, bending them to his will. His victims see the unseen, hear the unheard. Sanity unravels quickly under his gaze. Interest from him is not a gift. It is a sentence. Ooh, boy. That is quite, that's ominous. Not as ominous as the Man in the Hat, but still rather ominous. And of course, fantastic art from Will Conrad. All these are drawn fantastically. Will Conrad is a master artist, which is why Bone God was a great story, even if it was like overpacked narratively. The art was fantastic to look at. So now we've got a character that's not from Saints and Sinners. I think we're done with all the Saints and Sinners characters, and we're going on to some Rippaverse characters, or general Rippaverse characters. This is Morningstar. Of course, makes an appearance in Bloodroof. He's the climactic antagonist in that story. So we've got Morningstar, 6'5", another 5 foot tall with the wings. His weight is 266 pounds. He's born in hell. And of course, his first appearance was in Bloodroof #1, which October 24 is when it launched on Halloween, but we really got it in February. A blasphemer draped in borrowed divinity. The one called Morningstar mocks the heavens with every breath he takes. Once radiant, now reviled. He seeks not just destruction, but corruption. He does not need to lift a blade when he can whisper ruin into willing ears. Entire civilizations have crumbled without him ever raising a hand. Bound to a hellish domain, he manipulates mortals from afar, save for those cursed moments when he walks among them. His purpose is clear, to damn what God loves. And now his gaze is settled on one Sidney Bloodroof, a blood witch of growing renown. Her untapped purity is a prize he means to claim. He offers her a crown of ash and flame. I wonder, will she kneel or burn him where he stands? So, a crown, terror of the infernal realm. Morningstar commands flight, unholy strength, and the dark gifts of corruption. He tempts with whispers, conquers with charm, and destroys with ease. His power is not merely force, it is persuasion. To fall under his influence is to invite damnation willingly. Oh boy. And of course, hell is talked about quite a bit in the Bible. It's called Hades in the New Testament, Sheol in the Old Testament. If you read the Masoretic text, if you read the Septuagint, it will be translated as Hades, but it is certainly mentioned. You can read like Jonah crying out from Sheol. Of course, Christ tells the Pharisees, how will you escape the condemnation of hell? That his church that the gates of hell won't prevail against his church. So hell is something that is mentioned. It's something you can be condemned to in the Christian worldview. And of course, Morningstar is certainly leaning into that concept, which I think is really interesting. Of course, a bit terrifying. But next we've got Yahshua here. Very interesting. Of course, he's in like regular clothes, but still he got the ice powers surrounding him, which is pretty cool. We've got Yahshua, 6'4", 215 pounds. In a world where names are earned and not given and power is forbidden, Yahshua rose a feat in itself. Once nameless, now known. Once loyal, now uncertain. He is Yaira's oldest friend, bonded by youth and silence, yet time has made strangers of them. He remained behind when she fled their home world, bound by duty, but when judgment came for her, he followed, intent on saving her or stopping her. What he witnessed, however, unraveled everything. Yaira no longer who he remembered, tearing through her hunters like wrath made flesh. So Yahshua did the unthinkable. He allied with her enemies. In seeking justice, he stepped into the grip of the forsaken crystal magi, a fate worse than exile. I wonder when the dust settles, whose side will he claim and at what cost? Interesting. Yahshua honed forbidden gifts in secret, shaping wind to soar and ice to strike. What once made him defiant now makes him dangerous. Under the sway of the forsaken crystal magi, he has been changed. I await the reveal of what dark blessings they have carved inside of him. So that's going to be something to see as Yaira gets further and further explored. But now I think the most exciting one, we're getting into Zalen. Of course, this is a fantastic drawing of Zalen. Now, Zalen is a character that is very beloved by Rippaverse fans. And to me, and I think to a lot of people, he's the strongest character in the Rippaverse based on what we've seen from him. Of course, the Zalen book was fantastic, even if it had that minor misprinting error, or that minor misprint, I ought to say. That's a bit redundant. But anyways, fantastic book. Would love to see more Zalen. Bit down the future, of course, Horseman and Alphacore are going to be the focus on Chuck and Joe for now, but I'd love to see a Zalen miniseries because there's enough with this character that he needs to be explored more. But we do have this Dokumaan card to keep us to hold us over until then. So Zalen Dark, 6'4", 220 pounds. He was born on Kodafa. His first appearance, of course, as Zalen What Kills Must Die. I've watched Zalen Dark for some time, and I remain uncertain whether he's a savior or a calamity in waiting. Created by beings who later abandon him, he wanders the stars in search of answers and belonging. He does not yet grasp what he truly is. Perhaps it is better that way. Now accompanied by a sharp-tongued mechanic named Bong and the ever-composed elven advisor Tala, Zalen commands a vessel once owned by the Little Green Men, grateful survivors of his intervention. He claims allegiance to the Sentinel Initiative, but his loyalty lies with his creed. What kills must die. Such a code invites ruin, and ruin often follows. If he ever discovers the truth of his origin, the universe may not survive the reckoning that follows. I will be watching. Interesting that Dokumaan knows, right? He's that in tune. He's got his feelers that far out that he knows how Zalen's origins, which is really interesting to me. Zalen Dark possesses flight, immense strength, and near invulnerability gifts that defy classification. Yet even gods fatigue. His reliance on ion baths to recover suggests limits, though vast. Lately he tires more easily. Curious power like his rarely dims without reason. What I wonder is draining him now. And that's something that, like I said, it really needs to be explored in the miniseries. So get on it, guys. That's all I'm going to say. But we're coming to the end of this set. We're in the last two. So there's, of course, Tala. As mentioned in Dokumaan's card, she's the very composed elven companion, standing at 5'8", 128 pounds. Don't know where she was born. We do know that she's a sharp tongue and sharper mind. This elven alien now serves as an advisor to the unpredictable being known as Zalen, aboard a commandeered vessel of the Little Green Men. How she came to this position remains unclear, but her loyalty to the Universal Charter appears unshaken. Tala is eloquent, informed, and unafraid to speak hard truths. Though her advice is often dismissed in favor of Zalen's impulsive theatrics, how typical of such a dynamic, she claims detachment, but I have sensed the burden of responsibility weighs heavily. Whether her apparent disdain for the crew is genuine or simply a feature of her elven temperament is difficult to discern. Her navigation and survival expertise are exceptional. Good thing, too, she spends most of her time steering Zalen away from the consequences he seems so eager to court. Tala moves with the elegance of her kind, swift, precise, Tala moves with the elegance of her kind, swift, precise, and calculating, a seasoned guide and a sharp strategist. Her affiliation with the Sentinel Initiative grants her rare authority across star systems. She needs no grand display of force. Her presence alone signals that justice has arrived. Quiet, watchful, and absolute. Sorry, I fumbled for the reading there, guys, but definitely interesting nonetheless. And we're on to the final Dokumaan card, Bong, the sharp-tongued mechanic and companion of Zalen. So, of course, Bong, it's a Batanga Walla Wat Bongaresh, I'm even saying that correctly. 5'1", 225 pounds, so like a very stocky, kind of like, I think like Torbjorn from Overwatch. A Phodon by species, a survivor by fate. Born one of 20, Bong clawed his way up from a life of scraps, like many of his kind, nomadic scavengers and shipwrights known across 2 galaxies, but destiny intervened when his vessel was ambushed by Reavers. The only survivor, he drifted alone on an asteroid in the Schoenhof belt until rescued by Zalen Dark. Now he serves aboard an LGM craft, working alongside the Elven advisor, Tala and the Chaos Incarnate, that is Zalen himself. Rash, foul-mouthed, and endlessly resourceful, Bong hides a fiercely loyal heart beneath the grime. I wonder if he realizes what he signed up for. Traveling with a being like Zalen is not a journey, but a ticking fuse. One spark and everything burns. And I think definitely saw a good bit of that in Zalen What Kills Must Die. So Bong's physiology grants him heightened balance, acute hearing, and surprising combat precision. Despite his crude demeanor, he's a savant with ship systems, able to patch, pilot, or rewire any vessel he boards. His instincts for survival and navigation mark him as more than just a stowaway of fate. Do you think that's quite interesting? Definitely love the Dokumaan cards. So again, another fantastic deck of Dokumaan cards. Absolutely do love that. We're caught up on all the stuff I got from my Saints and Sinners order, as well as giving you guys that really big update on Alphacore 2, which is really cool to have that collection launch. So this is a really fun episode to do. I'm not sure if the next episode is going to be as fun. Probably going to be a bit of a slower week since, they don't, sometimes they do. I don't think we've ever seen like 2 collections launched like back to back in weeks. But we are going to get a bunch of stuff before the end of the year because we do have some Rip Reveal stuff and we do have some stuff that hasn't even been announced yet. That's apparently going to be coming out pretty soon. So stay tuned for that. Whatever happens that's Rippaverse related, you're going to know about it on the Braxcast. So be sure to subscribe and follow the channel to keep up with all of that. But for now, Joker is out.
Thank you for tuning in to the Braxcast. Be sure to like, comment, follow, and subscribe to keep up with the Rippaverse.